Hello and welcome to episode 3 of That Dance Nerd Show, brought to you by Dance Nerd, for those who wear their passion for dance. My name is Danielle Guillermo and I am your host. We're here today with dancer and professional counselor, Michelle Williams Owusu. Welcome, Michelle, to the show.
Hello, hello.
When did you begin dancing?
So I was probably about 7. I was first put in gymnastics, and at the gymnastics gym, there was also a dance one studio that had 2 teachers that were married. And so I started taking their ballet class at the same time as gymnastics. And after maybe like 6 to 8 months or something, they were like, you really should choose if you want to do gymnastics or if you want to do dance, because they're very opposite and we want you to train properly. And I was like, I'm done with gymnastics. I'm dancing because I loved it.
Oh,
so
cool.
I started then. Yeah.
And where did you train?
So while I was a child, I stayed with them, that couple. They started their own studio and company. And
Okay.
so I trained with them all the way through high school. And then when I graduated high school, I ended up going to Point Park College, which is now Point Park University.
All right.
And so I have a bachelor's in dance from there. And then from Point Park, I went and trained at Dayton Contemporary Dance Second Company for a couple of years.
But tell me, when did your interest in therapy and counseling begin? Because, I can say this because I was there at the time, you were definitely in the running for full contract position with Dayton Contemporary Dance Company. But there was a point there that you decided to make a change. So did it happen as you were dancing with DCDC? Where did your interest in counseling first begin, I should say?
Well, I feel like I've always known, like from the time you start really thinking about a career, I've always known that I wanted to do something where I could talk to people and help people and really listen, because I knew that I had a knack for that and I was very interested in hearing people's stories. So even through high school, as I was trying to decide what I was going to do, I knew that I was going to be a therapist, but I knew that I also wanted to dance. And I figured, okay, dance is something you need to do when you're younger, just because of your body and all of that. So it's like, I can always go back to school for therapy when I decide to. So I've always known that I was going to go into a field of therapy.
Okay.
But then when I was at DCDC, I don't really know exactly what switch flipped for me. But like the night before auditions for First Company, something happened internally that just kind of spoke to me and said, I don't know if this is right for me. I really love to dance, but I also really want to move into this career. I also want to start a family. I had been in a long-term relationship already for a while. And so I had all these things up in the air. And I just ultimately made the decision not to audition for the company and to come back to Chicago or Illinois area to get my master's degree in therapy. And so I went from there.
And you started right away into that program from DC?
Yeah, so I actually stayed in Dayton 1 extra year.
Okay.
And got some experience. Like I volunteered at a group home.
Oh,
I
good.
did some grant writing for some educational programs. I did some studying abroad. And so I did that from Dayton the first year. And then after that, I went back to Chicago and then started my master's program.
Okay. So while you were going through your graduate program, did you keep dance in your life?
I did, actually. So when I moved back home, I ended up teaching and working at the studio that I grew up at.
Okay.
So I was teaching classes there, and then they had started they branched off, and they had 2 separate performing companies. They had one that was more of a concert-oriented company that was part of RDA and all of that, more of a stronger focus on ballet and contemporary ballet, and which is what I grew up in. And then they started a competitive company that was more like hip hop, jazz, contemporary based. And they needed help. That new company needed help. So they asked me to kind of come in and help the director with that. So I was kind of working on that competitive company as well as teaching and then going to school as well.
Wow. So always a full plate for you. Um,
Yes.
since you've been able to manage both dance and working in a professional field, how do you see the two fields coming together? How do they work together for you?
Well, that's an interesting question because, a lot of times people think about dance therapy. And I've
Okay.
had so many people ask me, well, why don't you put the two together? And why don't you do dance therapy? And for me, even though they're very much connected,
Mhm.
they're also very separate for
Okay.
me. Like dance is very much like a safe space, my passion, something I truly enjoy doing. It's very, very personal to me.
Okay.
Therapy, I'm very passionate about as well, but just in a different way. And so
Sure.
I kind of like to keep them separate. So dance
Okay.
therapy is not quite the route that I'd like to take, but
Okay.
they are connected in the way I would say that therapy impacts how I teach my
Okay.
students in the dance studio. So I feel like I'm able to see them more individually, see them more as human beings versus just dancers' bodies,
Really.
being able to connect with them on an emotional level, because I really find that in order to be an impactful and an effective teacher in the dance studio, you have to be able to have that personal connection with them, because you're not only teaching them how to dance, but you're also teaching them how to survive in the world. And you're
Yeah.
teaching them life skills that they're going to keep with them for their entire lives, whether they decide to dance or not, which most of them don't end up dancing.
Right. Right.
So I want to leave them with something.
Yeah. So that they have a positive experience for the time that they're dancing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So now we are going to hit up our 30-second. No, I changed it to 60 seconds after episode 2. 60 seconds to do first thing that comes to mind, answer. Our timer is ready. First thing that comes
Oh
to
boy.
mind. Here we go. And
I'm so awful at these.
you're going to be great. Okay, here we go. And start. Favorite food.
Tacos.
Favorite word.
Mindfulness.
Favorite book.
The Help.
Favorite movie.
Ugh. There's so many. Love Jones.
Oh, okay. Favorite movie. Oh, no, no, sorry. Favorite ballet to watch.
Chroma.
Favorite ballet that you've performed.
Oh, I don't know.
You can say anything, whatever
Oh
comes
my
to mind.
gosh. I mean, Nutcracker is so nostalgic. I loved doing it because it brings good feelings.
Okay. Best vacation that you've ever taken.
Oh, Punta Cana.
You actually finished with 10 seconds left on the clock, and I was out of questions. So excellent. See, I told you, good job, good job, good job, good job. So for the last part of the interview, I'm going to use questions that were asked from our social media followers. The first question is, what advice do you have for dancers interested in therapy?
Oh, yes. The first thing is to make sure that you're ready to move into a different space within your dance career,
Okay.
because it will shift. If you are a dancer and you're wanting to move into therapy, you're going to have to kind of reprioritize and
Mm-hmm.
be okay with that. And I think that can be difficult sometimes as dancers. Dancers become dance becomes everything for us. It's
Yes.
like our main priority, and so being able to be okay with letting go of the reins there a little bit is
Mm-hmm.
important. So that you can be ready for that next step.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. And the second question, what advice do you have just for young dancers?
I think dance can be so difficult on our emotional well-being because it's such an aesthetic that you're looking at your body all the time. We're comparing ourselves to people all the time. You have someone who's judging you every time that you're in class, whether it's positive or whatever it might be. You have someone constantly looking at you, picking you apart, telling you what to do differently. And
Right.
so we have to be able to make sure that we're grounded in ourselves and that our
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence is strong, knowing that we're okay, and really managing our self-talk. So
Sure.
making sure that we are not being our own worst enemy and feeding ourselves all of these negative thoughts and voices that can
Mhm.
come from that. I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as this person. You know, my teacher hates me. They don't correct me, or they correct me too much. You
Yeah,
know, all of these different things. So being able to just be okay in your own skin.
sure.
And I think another piece of that is just making sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
You know, oftentimes dance can be used as self-care, but sometimes if that's the space that you're being the hardest on yourself and that it can become stressful, you
Right.
also have to have outside ways of making sure that you're maintaining your emotional and mental well-being.
Sure. Like a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. A hobby, journaling, supportive people that you can talk to, relaxation techniques, meditation, any of those
The
things.
list goes on. And many thanks to you, Michelle, and for all of you for joining us today. Shop Dance Nerd at mydancenerd.com, apparel and goods for people who wear their passion for dance. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks.